So we're joined for our final guest of 2025, all the way from across the Atlantic in London, the United Kingdom, my friend Ruth Osoba, career switcher, pharmacist, software engineer. We thank you so much for taking some time for us today. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, and this is our college career readiness class. We are in the STEM career cluster, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining us over there in the UK today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so obviously we want to talk about all the things you do in software, and how you've really documented your journey into tech and how it's such a growing field and touches every industry. But just take us back to your university experience. Graduate of the University of Nottingham, home of Robin Hood, which I always thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
University of Nottingham, which is a campus of almost 30,000 students. So very, very large university. We have a lot of large universities here in the United States, and a lot of kids say they want to go there, which is fine. We encourage kids to make the best decisions for their situation. But at a large university, I don't care what country you're in, it is very easy to get lost in the shuffle. So tell us a little bit about your university experience going to such a large but still very prestigious university there in the UK.
Yeah. Um, like you said, the University of Nottingham is humongous, very easy to get lost in it. I studied pharmacy. I think at the time the University of Nottingham was the sixth best pharmacy school in the world.
Wow.
So you can imagine like the extent of pharmacy students at that university. But in terms of like kind of making your mark and standing strong in such a large university or institution. Um, One of the things that helped me was just taking every opportunity that came. So I was welfare officer of the Afro-Caribbean Society. We had a pharmacy society as well, and I worked as the IT and communications officer.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and then at one point as well, there was an opportunity to get a research paper published, and that was looking at the current curriculum. This was before, just before COVID, around that time. Um, the current curriculum, because at the time we were learning a lot of skin conditions, but didn't see it represented on like darker skin colors, and that led to like wider discussions of about like illnesses that impact majority the Black community, such as sickle cell, and made sure that the curriculum was wide enough to cover that. So yeah, I was able to work with some colleagues on my course and publish a research paper, and that was able to be shown at other universities and help impact other curriculums. So I think it was just taking hold of any opportunity, really going for it. I didn't have all the answers, but I learned along the way, and I think that's how you stand out in a huge university.
Yeah, and it's all about, joining the student organizations,
Yeah.
getting to know people, because look, you can be an excellent student, you can have the
Mm.
highest GPA possible, but if nobody knows who you are, it's really for nothing because they
Yeah.
always say, I know they even say it over there, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I always take it one
Definitely.
step farther. It's who knows you. Make your
Mm.
mark, and we'll share your website. You actually have some great career resources on your website that that people can get. But I always tell the story, and this is 100% true. I was in a class at University of Southern Mississippi with around 300 people, very large auditorium class. There was literally a guy in the class I had known my entire life. I did not know he was in the same class as me until the last day we took the final exam. It is
Wow.
that easy to get lost in the shuffle. So
Mm.
that's why it's so important. We want young people to come out of their shell, no matter what they major in, whether it's software or pharmacy or whatever. Find your place, find your community, find the internships, find people that can help you advance your career. Now, you got your degree in pharmacy and you spent a few years in the pharmacy industry, which we had a pharmacist earlier this semester, and we talked about how pharmacists are medicine experts. So you spent a lot of time right at COVID working in the pharmacy field. So talk about that, and how, like me, I switched careers as well at 29 years old.
Mhm.
So talk about, you enjoyed pharmacy, you did very well at it, but then you kind of pivoted and became a software engineer.
Yes, yeah. So as you said, I loved studying pharmacy. I thought it was so interesting. I picked it because it has like it's very broad in the sense that you learn about chemistry and biology, but then there's like this business aspect, and then you learn about leadership, about communication. So I think it was such a broad degree, and such a valuable one to have, even if you don't know what you want to do in the future. So I absolutely love that. And then I worked in community pharmacy for around 2 years. So in the UK, after you graduate, you have to do 1 year training that they call your pre-reg year. And then after
Okay.
you do that year, you sit an exam. And once you pass that exam, then you get on the register and you can practice pharmacy in the UK. So I worked in a pharmacy for 2 years in total. Um, Really enjoyed it, but I think it became a bit repetitive for me. And I've I've always had this like creative itch that wasn't being scratched in pharmacy. So during my pharmacy training year, I was actually coding on the side just as a hobby and things like that. Um, and then I said to myself, do you know what? I'm doing this every evening. I really love it. Like I'll stay up late to code and build websites and stuff like that. Um, why don't I try to pursue this as a career? Like, why don't I make a change so that I can do this, not just in the evenings, I can do this like all week, all month kind of thing. So that's what really spurred me. Just the fact that I loved it. It was so genuine. I loved learning it, and I was like, this is what I want to do. So I started by teaching myself, just doing like courses on YouTube and W3 schools and things like that. And then ultimately used a boot camp. So this was supplied by Code First Girls, which is a
Yep.
non-profit organization that teaches women how to code. And I did that boot camp, and that kind of just equipped me with all the knowledge I needed to know to do technical interviews and get my role in tech. So yeah, quite a squiggly path, but it was just me following my interests and
Yeah.
just going for it, really.
Yeah, and that's funny you say that because our friend Jesse Augusti was on the same platform, and I've had people in Canada, in the United States, the UK, and Nigeria all say out of their
Mm.
own mouths, if you want to get into tech, it's not necessarily a field you would need a degree in. Now, are we telling
Mm.
people not to go to university? Absolutely not. But
Mm.
everybody is not even built for university. I have kids all the time say, I want to do this, but I don't want to spend 4 years and spend money getting a degree. That's fine. The
Mm.
military, I know even in the UK and here in the US, the military is a great pathway into tech. The tech skills that are learned in the military, you're dealing with state of the art technology and they're paying you. You're not paying a dime for it. And then here in when they graduate high school, they can have IT certifications through our IT program over at our career center. So these tech companies, they don't, if you have a degree, that's great, but they care about can you do the job? Do you have the certification? Do you have the experience? And can you work with our team?
Mm. Yeah, definitely. And I think because it's hands-on, they teach you kind of like in demand knowledge. So, like, can you code in Python? Can you code in the hottest programming languages that you're likely to be using in like in a corporation? And so I think, yeah, it skipped a lot of the things that you don't necessarily need to be a software engineer. But with that being said, I think there is a level of theory that you still need to understand to be
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
software engineer. So
yeah,
I think it's
absolutely.
balancing the two.
Absolutely. And I think, I don't think kids realize, and I think most people don't realize that software people touch every single industry. Even when you
Yes.
were even when you were a pharmacist, the amount of software that has to go into that data being stored and protecting people's privacy. When you go to the pharmacy now, and no matter where you are in the world, they're not pulling up a piece of paper; they're pulling up a software program.
Mm,
Even right now, as a teacher, I use 3 or 4 software programs in healthcare. I mean, you get in the hospitals, um, every patient that all the patient data, all the patient insurance information, all their diagnosis, all that is stored on software programs. That when we go check into a hotel, it's a software program. When we go order on the kiosk at McDonald's, that's a software program. So software engineers and software people touch every single industry. And even if and I know we're not going to tell the company, but you work for a company now that is not a software company, but you still deal with their software. So it really does touch every industry, whether you are have a background in that industry or not. And I always use the example. We have another friend of this class that works for the Department of Revenue here in Mississippi. So they're doing the taxes. He knows nothing about how that money is collected. He doesn't send people the bill. He doesn't, if somebody calls him about how much do I owe, he's gonna say call somebody else. But that server that he manages cannot go down. Certainly,
Mm.
these businesses are depending on millions of dollars to have their servers running, to have their software up to date for people to be able to log in and make payments. So the software people are becoming more and more vital to so many industries.
Yeah, that's so true. And I remember even when I was working in a pharmacy, they'd have all these new updates. So I remember at one time they brought in like barcode scanners. So normally when you're dispensing medication, you have to be like very meticulous and make sure everything matches the prescription. But then they brought in these barcode scanners. So you just scan the box and it will tell you if you've got the right medicine. And it was just things like that. And I was always intrigued, like, okay, I'm a pharmacist, I do the medicine, but all this technology is making my job easier, straightforward, safer, and yeah, it really just sparked something in my head. So yeah, it literally touches every single industry.
Yeah, and everywhere you go now, as soon as you walk in the door, they have a QR code. Download our app.
Yeah.
Starbucks, anywhere you go, you walk in a church, download our app. So the need for these tech skills is going to continue to grow, and we need more people in it. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, we've talked about the tech skills, which are important. But at the same time, these communication skills, these soft skills are just as important because, for example, you work for a company that does not specialize in software. But if somebody comes to you, you've got to be able to explain things. And I think one of the biggest skills that young people right now need to master is the ability to speak, the ability to say, hey, here's what's wrong. Here's how we're going to fix it. Here's the solution. And here's how it's going to make our company better. So obviously, a lot of kids get into tech because they say, I don't really want to deal with people. Well, you are a tech person, but you still have to deal with the people on a professional level. So talk about the communication and teamwork skills that are needed in software because it is something that I think gets overlooked a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I mean, the majority of software engineers work in a team. It's quite often a multidisciplinary team. So you'll have someone doing front end, back end, maybe someone testing, and then within that team, you kind of have to coordinate to build this application. So communication is needed there. And then obviously in my role, I'm building for the business. And so
Yeah,
there's that business element. I need to understand what the business owner wants. I need to understand
there
how
you
the user
go.
is actually going to use this application. And again, that communication is different from the immediate team because I could say a programming concept to the immediate team and they'll get it. But the business, they just want to know, does it look nice? Does it work? So I kind of have to filter all that technical terminology and give it to them in a way that they understand. And I think I was able to develop that through pharmacy actually. Because obviously with pharmacy, you know, like the depths of conditions of like the mechanisms that in which medicines work in. But then a patient doesn't want to hear all of that. They want to hear, how do I get well? What do I have? And so on. And so I kind of practiced that in pharmacy. So when it came to tech, it was a similar skill, just different terminology, and I was able to translate it that way. But yeah, contrary to popular belief, you're not just sitting in a cubicle typing code all day. You have to communicate what your code does, answer questions, and also know how to ask questions so you gather requirements for what you're developing. That's the most important thing because you can code, but if you're not coding the right thing, you might as well not be coding. So being able to communicate that is so important.
Well, and that's funny. That's a great segue because I'm about to get to their questions, but that's what I wanted to say next is, as an engineer of any sort, especially a software engineer, and I think I can speak for every teacher that's going to see this later, is that one of the biggest challenges we face is these young people, as smart as they are and as talented they are, the first time they mess up, oh, this is too hard, I quit. How often do software engineers get it right the first time?
I think that's my favorite thing about the job because as a pharmacist, if I get it wrong, that could like the consequences of that could be detrimental. Like you're putting people's lives at risk. In software development, every time I get it wrong, I'm like, okay, thank God I get it. I'm getting something wrong because that means there's an opportunity to learn and develop as a software engineer. There's a real culture of like helping each other out in the team as well. So you will often hear developers talk about like paired programming. And so you will come across, we call them bugs. So you'll come across a bug and then you'll ask someone, okay, can we talk this through together? And then you'll kind of overcome that stuckness. So yeah, it's a common thing. You're always gonna hit a roadblock or wall, but it's part of it because once you've overcome that, you're like, yes, I've overcome this and I've learned something. So the next time I encounter that roadblock, I'll be able to overcome it faster. So yeah, it's just part of the job.
Yeah, an engineer's job is to solve the problem, and it's at the end
Definitely,
of the
yeah.
day, it's a puzzle, but at the end of the day, you have a tangible result that you can see because you were like, look, we worked together and we made this happen, and now everybody's happy. So it
Yeah.
really does have the tangible results that anybody can see. Well, I do have some great questions here. I'll get to as many of these as I can. This first one is Kaylin Bullock. She's in ninth grade, and she
Mhm.
asked, "What skills from pharmacy transferred most to help you as a tech professional?"
Good question. So yeah, like I said, communication. So the communication style that I use in pharmacy, I've been able to transfer it on to software engineering, which has really helped. Another one is attention to detail. So as a pharmacist, you're checking prescriptions, you have to make sure everything matches, you have to make sure the dosages are right, you have to be very meticulous. And that transfers to coding because if you miss something out, if I use the wrong variable or my logic is not quite right, that could cause a bug in your application. Your application might go down, the users might not be able to use your application, so on and so forth. So that kind of same meticulous nature that I used in pharmacy, I've been able to apply it to coding, which means that I still make mistakes, but I'm able to identify them at least a bit quicker because of that.
That's such a great point because, and again, we have some great pharmacy schools here in Mississippi, and we have some alums that have gone through that. Pharmacy might be one of the most detail-oriented jobs you can have because, like you
Mhm.
said, it doesn't have a whole lot of room for error, and people's lives are
Yeah,
at stake.
yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
but that is such a great point. I like this one. This is Cambry Luckett. She's in ninth grade, and she asked, "What programming languages and frameworks and tools are you most proficient in?"
So at the moment in my role, I use TypeScript. So it's a bit like JavaScript, but you put in the type so it's easier to follow, easier to debug and things like that. And then the framework I use is React. So it's a UI framework. It just makes things prettier. You put things into components and then you can plug it into the UI wherever you want. So yeah, those are the ones that I work with and I love them so much.
Love it. Well, I had this one from Ashton Leach, the only young man in here with us today with all these women. But he asked, he's in ninth grade. He asked, "What has been the hardest part of your journey?"
Hmm, good question. Um, I think it was when it was transitioning, to be fair, because obviously I became a pharmacist. It's like a reputable career. I'd
Absolutely.
um, studied for 5 years, invested a lot of money into it, a lot of time into it. And I think making that, first of all, realizing that I wasn't as happy as I could be in pharmacy was very scary.
There you go.
Making that leap that not a lot of people in my circle had made. So kind of being the first one to make that jump was scary because there was very little, I guess, examples and guidance. Um, and then also like people around me kind of saying, why are you switching? You've got such a good job and stuff like that, making me seem that I was kind of crazy for wanting to switch. So I think it was um that initial desire to switch and the initial steps I took were quite scary because I didn't know what was beyond that first step. But it worked out.
That's awesome. Well, I got time for two more. This is Deani Johnson. She's in ninth grade, and she's a member of our band here. And she asked, "What was the most different thing when it came from changing from being a pharmacist to dealing with technology?"
Hmm. Um, there was a lot. First of all, the the way we work. So pharmacy, we're very much on our feet, talking face to face, active, going up and down, calling up GPs, doing this and that. But with software development, it's more stationary. So I'm literally on my seat, um, because of COVID, a lot of us work remotely or hybrid and in a hybrid model. So we'll have like Zoom calls and things like that. Um, yeah, barely on my feet any part of the day unless I decide to go for a walk. So I think that was the main change physically. And then talking to patients as well, like during pharmacy, like I remember I'd lose my voice because every second of the day I'm counseling someone or talking to like a colleague and stuff like that. Um, but in software development, unless I'm talking to like my immediate team or the business, I kind of have to go out of my way to like talk to the rest of my colleagues. So um, yeah, it has its benefits some days, but I am quite a social person, so I miss that aspect of pharmacy, just being able to talk to the community, have like side conversations and stuff like that. But yeah.
Now, I love this one. This is Brianna Carson. She's in 10th grade, also a member of our band. And she asked, throughout your entire journey, what is something that you would say you are the most proud of?
Mm. Um, Good question. Um, I am most proud. I'm most proud of teaching myself how to code because I remember I
Oh.
tr attempted to do it a few years back in before COVID. I attempted to do it, and I was learning Python. And I thought it was too hard. And I was like, how can anyone like learn this? It's gobbledygook. It's like a different language. Like I can't do it. Um, so, and I even go back, like remembering the first time I learned like certain design principles for code, like object-oriented programming. And in my boot camp, there was this one homework that we did, and I was just like, I couldn't get my mind like around it. But like to think that like to see how far I've come and that I use it in my day to day and I did a lot of that learning um, independently and just persevered through even when I didn't understand it. I think that's what I'm most proud of. Just yeah, finding something difficult, but not using that as an excuse to stop. Continuing to go and seeing the benefits and the fruits of that.
Love it. That's so cool. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But a couple things before we go. First of all, ruthfultech.com is the website. Ruthful Tech on Instagram. They don't have their phones right now, but when they get them, we're going to have everybody follow you. Ruthful Tech on
Great.
Instagram. But the last thing before we go, and I think we haven't really talked about this, but I think it's important. Only 3% of software engineers in the world are black females. This is a field that desperately needs diversity. We have a lot of first generation Americans in our school district, so we need people of all language backgrounds. We need people of all genders, all ethnicities. So, and you did kind of mention something. You said, "Look, nobody in my family had done this. It was new to everybody." So I always say you can be the first at something, but that doesn't mean you can't be the best at it. So
Mm,
as these kids are matriculating through secondary school, deciding on university or whatever path they want to choose, because we're all about giving options. Why should they really consider getting into this tech field? Because one, it desperately needs them. Two, these jobs are not going away. And three, like we just said, the need for diversity has never been bigger in this field.
Yeah, that's definitely a great question. Um, Yeah, I think like you said, at only 3%, there's only 3% representation. And I'm sure if you look around in your room now at all the technology, um, the likelihood of one being built by a black female, or even a female at that, is very, very low. And so like we're the users of this technology, but um we don't get the full we can't access the fullness of it because it's not being built by us. And so there's certain things that aren't being taken into consideration. And one thing that I always refer to is the hand dryer, because sensors hand dryers they won't take into account like black skin. So sometimes when I put my hand under the dryer because my skin is dark,
Wow. I never thought about that.
yeah, but when
Wow.
I put it this way, then it turns on. So it's just stuff like that like this industry needs you because it needs your thought process. It needs you to be in that room and say, actually, this doesn't work for me. Can we do it this way? Um, so yeah, just like it needs you. There's no other way around it.
That is incredible. Wow. Great stuff. What a great way to end our calendar year here at Velma Jackson. But again, we thank you. Oh, and we hope you have a Merry Christmas, a great Boxing Day, a great New Year's over there in London. We thank you so much for joining us. Ruth Osoba, all the way from London. Thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. Thank you.
I talk to you soon, my friend.
Thank you. Bye bye.